All right, guys, welcome in. I'm the Kodiak Broncos Podcast, and today I'm here to talk about Tet McMillan. But before I start this absolute banger of a video, I'm just here to show you all a few clips about him. So I would have saved these till the end, but I do want to show you these to show you what kind of player Tet McMillan could become in the NFL. So this is from Joe A. NFL over here. Quarterback throws a bad ball into triple coverage. Literally no excuse for targeting this route. Tet McMillan erases this mistake with an insane spinning one-handed stag while running at full speed. You can't teach ball winning like this. 100% agree. And as I go further along into the video, you'll notice that one of the things I'm really impressed with Tet McMillan is as far as his skill set is his catch radius. So then we also have some really nice yak here. This one was posted by Kyron Samuels. So some nice yak reps. I'm going to underrated ability in this area. I'm going to restart it from the beginning. So we've got Arizona versus Texas Tech, I believe. Yeah. And one of the things that really also sticks out to me watching Tet McMillan is that he's like a sneaky yak guy. Like I think a lot of people are thinking that with a guy who's like 6'4" and not like a insane separator that he's not going to be a prolific yak guy. But I see a completely opposite angle of his game. Like he just does a really, really nice job at making dudes miss in the middle of the field. And I think that skill set is going to be very, very valuable to NFL offenses wherever he goes. And coming into this year, he was viewed as a bona fide top 5, top 10 pick. But first of all, he got hurt in spring, and I do think that hampered a lot of his game. And second, Arizona really didn't have that good of a year. In 2023, they didn't build on their success. I think they ended the year ranked like top 15 or something. But didn't really enter the year that strong. They just played terribly, especially against all that strong competition in the Big 12. So Mel Kiper has us taking Tetairoa and McMillan, and this isn't really a common mock thing anymore. It's not really common for us to be mocked a wide receiver, especially in the first round, because we do have other needs that people are catching on to. We literally have no viable running back starter on the roster. We did sign Evan Ingram, but if Colston Loveland is the dude, a guy like Evan Ingram is not going to deter us from drafting Colston Loveland and or even trading up for a guy like Tyler Warren. But Mel Kiper has us going with Tet McMillan, and NFL.com has us taking Omari and Hampton there. But like I said, wide receivers kind of been forgot about thing for us, or I want to say forgotten about, but it's not really high on the priority list anymore. So who is Tet McMillan? So 6'4", 219, he measured in at the combine. Wide receiver who plays primarily outside. So with his skill set, I do think it would be a miss that if he did not get some snaps on the inside, because I do think he does have some ability to be versatile there. But yeah, X receiver is a very rare breed in the NFL nowadays. So it's kind of cool that Tet McMillan is coming into the NFL and he's going to, I guess, take offenses back to their roots of having a bona fide X receiver. So 4-star recruit, number 4 wide receiver on 24/7 in the 2022 class. I can't remember who's number 3, but number 1 was Evan Stewart and number 2 was Luther Burden. Interesting to think about. He joined 4 of his high school teammates at U of A. So he joined Fafita, Manu, and then there was another one who went to his high school and then went to Arizona. But even though they were all expected to leave, as the Arizona coach from 2023, can't remember his name, got hired to go to Washington, that didn't happen. They all wanted to stay loyal to the Wildcats. And, maybe more of that will happen as we progress further along into the NIL era. But yeah. So, before we talk about that, 213 receptions, 3,423 yards, 26 touchdowns in his college football career. So, I do want to dive into this real analytics. So, Tetairoa McMillan got a 95.2 in-game athleticism score. And what real analytics does is they try to measure like the speed thresholds and, breaks and quickness and whatever. And they try to condense it into an in-game athleticism model rather than a combine athleticism model. And just the fact that he was clocked at 20.9 miles per hour this year while being 6'4", 219, that is absolutely absurd. So even though he didn't test at the combine, I feel more than okay with his athleticism. So main skill sets. So there could be a notion, and there was a notion by Steve Smith that was put out there, that he implied that Tet McMillan was a jump ball merchant and couldn't do anything else. That is very false. This was very confusing to me because Steve Smith had him ranked as the number 1 wide receiver in the draft class, but literally said he couldn't do anything other than win jump balls. And I'm just like, what? Like, you are just tweaking, man. Like, I listen, Steve Smith, you can say whatever you want about him. He told the Panthers to draft Jonathan Mingo. He told us that Jerry Jeudy sucked. So you can say whatever you want about him, but I'm just here to clear that up. Not the case when you watch Tetairoa McMillan. So what I will say about his game is that he's more of a Courtland Sutton and Michael Pittman wide receiver than a Michael Thomas or Drake London. Courtland Sutton, as we know, and Michael Pittman, they're not like super high-end separators, but A, they can get open enough, and B, they can make any catch on the field. And Michael Thomas and Drake London, yeah, while those guys are separate like high-end separators, and while those guys have been historically more productive in the NFL, I think Tetairoa McMillan's game is good enough as a separator, and he has a really big catch radius with really nice yak. So that's why I think he'd be a really, really nice fit for this team. Of all the receivers available, I do think Igbuka would be another nice one as well. But with Tetairoa McMillan, he does his best work on outbreaking routes. He's not really like a go ball guy. He's not really like a go up and get it, even though he did clock in at 75% contested catch success rate. And he only got a jump ball on 20% of his sampled routes. So that's really not a whole lot when you compare it to other big-bodied receivers that have come out the past few years. But he's not really a long-speed guy, and this shows up. Like, he's not one to just absolutely dust a defender off the line. He's not going to hit a home run. But you know what? He doesn't need to be. For a team like us that had no intermediate passing game this past year, I think a guy like McMillan would be absolutely fantastic if we were to throw him into our offense as well. So this is by Matt Harmon's reception perception, and like I said, he does his best work in outbreaking routes, as you can see with the success rate relative to historical average of prospects that are coming out on corner routes, on out routes. Comeback routes, 88.9%. Just shows he has some really nice hip fluidity, especially for being 6'4", 220. Not really like a 9 route guy, not really a slant route guy, but other than that, profile looks pretty clean, besides maybe curl routes you'd like to see a little higher. Either way, looks pretty good to me. So, should we draft Tetairoa McMillan? So this is the question I have: is how will he fare as far as like a team fit for us? So that would be a great fit for Nix, even if it does take him a little bit to develop that skill set to get the trust of the coaching staff to get on the field, because we've seen that they can be a little conservative when it comes to deploying rookies. But for Bo Nix, I do think with a guy like Courtland Sutton, who is now entering his age 30 year, that does not have a contract extension. Even if it does take a little bit for Ted McMillan's name to be known, for him to make his stamp on the offense, I think it could be really, really good for us. And one of the priorities going into the draft, in my opinion, or going forward, not even specifically in this draft, should be getting Courtland Sutton a succession plan. Maybe it's on the roster in A.T. Perry, but for the most part, I just don't think that real X succession plan is on the team right now. It might be true that Sean Payton does think the wide receiver room is better than some think, but the wide receiver play, we got to remind ourselves, it still was not very good for a lot of 2024, especially early on. So even though Mims wasn't Mims early on, even though Valet was hurt, even though we had minimal impact from our skill position dudes in general, the wide receiver play was still not that great. So you want to look to upgrade anywhere. And ultimately, I do think Ted McMillan would provide us a nice combination of floor and ceiling going forward. So as far as like our draft philosophy, I do think running back and tight end would be the best immediate picks, but wide receiver and defensive line, they would be the smartest investments. Like, I do think since there's going to be a lot of nice players at offensive line, at defensive line, that it's going to push down skill position talent to us, especially given the fact that the running back and tight end positions are pretty deep this year. But Ted McMillan is falling. Ted McMillan has fallen a lot ever since he was mocked as like a top 5, top 10 pick in those way too early mock drafts. But I do think wide receiver and D-line, they would be smartest. They would help us sustain. And, you know, I do think they would be the best picks to help us win a Super Bowl over the course of Bo Nix's rookie contract. But listen, wide receiver has kind of taken a backseat as far as our other team needs, just because A, we literally don't have a running back on the roster right now who can viably start. 2, Evan Ingram is not a long-term solution at tight end either. And tight end, I mean, this is the year to take a tight end if you're going to take one early. But wide receiver is kind of the odd position out. And I do think we do need to keep pouring resources into the defensive line. So wide receiver is the odd position out in the top 3 rounds. So with running back not having a viable dude on the roster, with tight end, you know, not having a long-term answer either. And I mean, I guess you could say wide receiver doesn't have a long-term answer as a number 1 target either, but listen, I feel much better about our receiver depth than I do about our tight end depth, and especially running back depth going forward, and our defensive line depth, because, I know a lot of people have been saying ever since the Eagles won the Super Bowl that we should, keep pouring into the trenches, and myself included. I do think that's a pretty valid argument, but we have no guys under contract for 2026 and beyond on the interior defensive line, so it'd be very smart to, shore up that as well. Once again, I would get the division, but you know what? If we were to take Ted McMillan at number 20, I'd be excited, and we're going to get a nice player at number 20 no matter what. One who we will all be excited about, so yeah, pretty much. Uh, that's pretty much guaranteed at this point. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace. Bye. Salute.